all have them, those pesky skeletons in the closet. Those things from our past that haunt us, sometimes even taunt us into doing things that we might not otherwise do. Or worse yet, stop us from living the fullness of life. What are we to do about them? Is there anything to do at all? I was recently asked, how do you really release those final pieces of trauma and fear from any given situation? How do you really start moving forward? I have found myself in that very situation many, many times throughout my life, wondering, searching for that way to release the trauma and fear and really start moving forward. I will spare you the details of my struggles, other than to say, I found one thing in common in all of them, and that one thing has been that moving forward every time. There has not been a single exception to date. I will do my best to give an explanation to what I have learned with the intention and confidence that it might benefit another in its practical application. Bear with me, as putting together just the right combination of words that anyone, should they desire, might understand is, well, a challenge. You see, the idea of releasing something has been misconstrued. And when I say misconstrued, I mean simply 3 = 5 is misconstrued, interpreted wrongly. The math is wrong, or not in balance. One does not equal the other. Like the example, our modern understanding and teachings of the concept of release is misconstrued. We are taught that release equals the absence of suffering. This is misconstrued or wrongly interpreted. One does not equal the other. Let me see if I can give an example. And forgive me in advance for the use of the hypothetical. You see, hypotheticals serve a purpose, but they can be tricky. So please recognize that a hypothetical is used to explore one or perhaps more aspects of a particular concept, but cannot convey the whole of it. Often, people attempt to discredit a concept by poking holes in the hypothetical. That's like trying to say that Lincoln can't walk because the statue of him doesn't move, if you get my meaning. Now, back to release, and on with the hypothetical. Let's say an animal is making its way about its normal business and gets caught in a hunter's trap. Some, particularly mothers, attempt to chew off their legs in an attempt to return home to their babies. Now, why some question the strength of women is a mystery to me, but let's get on with the hypothetical. The mother in this case makes a choice to release the limb. Now, let's see what we can find when we look up the modern definition of the word release. Number 1, to set free from confinement, restraint, or bondage. 2, to free from something that binds, fastens, or holds back, let go. 3, to dismiss as from a job. 4, to relieve of debt or obligation. And 5, to relieve of care and suffering. The mother is indeed setting herself free from confinement, restraint, and bondage. She is, in fact, letting go of her limb in the most literal of ways. But look there at number 5, slipped in there in the fine print like Facebook's privacy policy. What care or suffering is she relieved of? How could that be described? Of course, that word suffering, it's a tricky one, isn't it? For now, let's just go with whatever version of it pops into mind. Let's get back to our mother. Will she then spend the rest of her days cursing the trap, the hunter who placed it, or her children, that she sacrificed her limb to return to them, that she suffered? If your mother is anything like mine, it is unlikely she would ever give it another thought. The limb is released. There is nothing further to be thought of or done of. Rather, a new life is born in the next moment with the ingredients of now. Here is where we get confused as humans. We are taught that release, letting go, abates suffering. But what are you suffering from? What is there to release? Are you in bondage? Obliged? Restrained? There may certainly be pain, and how would you release that? Is that something you can literally release? Is there literally physical restraint? If so, by all means, release it. Get your leg out of the trap by all means possible. But what about the pain, the trauma of it all? What would that actually look like to release trauma? As if it was like broken glass inside you, and you've been hunting down each little sliver, each splinter, and just those final pieces remain holding you confined and in bondage. Do you see the confusion? What is there to release? How would you release a thought, a sensation, an experience, an emotion? You see, these things are part of us. They make us who we are. Asking ourselves to release them is like asking the bread to release the yeast that made it. In favor of what? The absence of yeast? There is an exercise that I do when working with large groups. I ask everyone there to look around and see the person that causes them the most anxiety, the person they least feel they would want to connect with. A lot of the work we do in these groups is done in what is called a dyad or a pair. After they have found that person that stirs so much in them, I ask them to introduce themselves to their new buddy for the duration of the program. You see, we do not release the ingredients of our lives. They are us. They are what make up the character of our lives. They are the building blocks of our growth. We often hide them in the closet out of fear that if someone else knew, they might treat us poorly, withhold their love, deny our intimate connection, and mark us for our transgressions. Make no mistake that this fear is justified, but only in that it is mutual. Only if the fear is mutual. And so I suggest we have a Halloween party, a sort of come as you are with all your skeletons in the closet, a sort of fear coming out of the closet dance party. And know this, courage is the act of embracing fear, being afraid, feeling vulnerable, and acting with full regard and care, and doing it anyway. And know that what makes life worth living is courage, that strength to know what is right, what is true, and do it by all means. And know that the courage comes through you, not from you. And for it to flow through you, it must come through someone, and it must flow to someone. That is as it should be, and it's beautiful. Sometimes people disagree on this, but it is not about agreeing. It is about seeing. There is no agreeing or disagreeing with the truth. It should be obvious. There is one additional piece that may make all the difference. It's that one thing I mentioned earlier. It was a moment of glory in my life when I realized, when I became aware, that there was one thing I had yet to forgive. It was a little boy who wanted to be loved so badly that he would do anything, endure whatever mistreatment, whatever pain, whatever suffering, for any glimpse, for any hope that anyone might show him what it meant to feel loved. He was there in every experience I have ever had, good or bad. There has not been a single exception to date. It is he that deserves my forgiveness the most. And so it was, and is, with excitement, trepidation, anguish, and joy, that I know it's never been about what happened. It's never been about the circumstance. It's always been about me. It's about what I do now. It's about how I will treat the one who wanted to be loved so badly that they would do anything, deliver whatever mistreatment, whatever pain, inflict whatever suffering, for any glimpse, for any hope that someone might show them what it meant to feel loved. Nothing I have ever done, nothing you have ever done, nothing that has ever been done to me, and nothing that has ever been done to you has damaged, hurt, or even scarred your soul in any way. And it's always about me, and I am another you. There has not been a single exception to date.